ensure domestic tranquility. Now, how does domestic tranquility fit into this? Domestic is one of the more potentially broad terms here. It comes from a term meaning house or household. Now, we could look at the inside of this whole nation as one great household. I mean, there's the famous quote made by Lincoln where he quotes the Bible and saying that a house divided cannot stand. Then there's also the micro view of it, domestic tranquility in each individual house or household within the nation. In some sense, this could be seen as as encompassing organizations of any type, or specifically dealing with individual structures and communities that we define as our families, or that are defined as families by law. I think we can all agree that this doesn't mean government comes in and forces us to get along in our families or our organization. I also hope we can agree that this shouldn't mean a domestic tranquility born out of a forced elimination of meaningful dissent. It's important to realize this. The importance of realizing this emerges when we look at the way in which our society has sought to move things toward tranquility and stability and liberty through incentivizing rather than legislating against acts, always. This is especially important when considering the claims of some of the no on Prop 8 side, when they said that if marriage is about kids, then we should either force couples to marry to have kids, or we should not allow infertile couples to get married, or any number of fantastic claims. These are specious arguments when one considers the modus operandi, that is, the way society operates, with regard to trying to seek the balance between liberty and tranquility, or stability. It's also important to realize that because an incentive or disincentive set up by society doesn't always work towards its stated goal, doesn't mean that it's ineffective or without merit or inherently unjust. An example of this is you getting a speeding ticket for speeding. Does the fact that other people on the road that day sped without getting pulled over or cited, does that mean that the laws of traffic should be rescinded because that was unjust, or you feel it was unjust? Of course not, because society did not implement the laws with the citations and punitive measures primarily so that it could fine and punish as many infringers as possible, but rather with the intent of maintaining order. So we have to look at the actual main intent of a law to determine if it has merits and if it's ultimately providing for domestic tranquility or encouraging justice, ultimate justice, rather than some trivial imagination of it. And the same is true with fostering ideal conditions for children to be raised, in the simple fact that present laws don't eliminate child abuse or children being raised by single parents or bad parenting or dysfunctional couples or dysfunctional families doesn't mean that a revocation or liberalization is correct or the proper reaction to the existence of such conditions. Just as speeders that don't get cited isn't a reason to impose 24/7 surveillance on all motor vehicles and computer systems with instant citations issuance to any and all who break traffic code, nor is it a reason to liberalize the law and just say, well, as long as your acts don't kill or injure anyone on the road, you're okay. I don't care if they come out with a computer system to aid the blind to enable them to be able to drive a car through or any kind of motor vehicle through course. I still wouldn't want them having driver's licenses if they're blind, if they're legally blind and don't have the proper means of correcting that. So again, the idea of ensuring domestic tranquility comes to this question: how would a liberalized definition of marriage, again, this would be the one that is presently legally the state of California, but is trying to be changed by Proposition 8. How does this new definition of marriage ensure domestic tranquility? We've already pointed out the separate but not equal condition that society would be openly supporting and thereby endorsing. Would it be ensuring domestic tranquility for society to openly consider this particular separate but equal condition as acceptable? How would ignoring gender help domestic tranquility, whether you're talking about this nation or as a household itself, or if you're talking about individual households? Would it ensure domestic tranquility to propagate the idea that equality only matters once you're an adult and only if your union will be between two people? How about this? In a 1993 study by Bloomstein and Schwartz, I'll give the citations, it was discovered that intimacy in couples of different types, after 10 years, varied significantly between lesbian couples, gay men couples, and married couples. It may be surprising, but after just 10 years, more than twice as many gay couples, and this male gay couples, and married heterosexual couples, twice as many gay married male couples as compared to heterosexual married couples were sexually intimate once a month or less. That is, that only 1 in 3 gay couples after just 10 years together, so 1 in 3 gay male couples after 10 years together are sexually intimate once a month or less. And that's, again, twice what it is, twice the rate that it is for married heterosexual couples. And this number skyrockets for lesbians, where after 10 years, almost 50% of lesbian couples are intimate once a month or less. An even more shocking fact about lesbian couples is about 10% of lesbian couples eventually entirely abandon sexual intimacy. Only 15% of heterosexual couples that are married have equally low rates as those had by nearly half of lesbians. A third of gay male couples. Is this an acceptable way to ensure domestic tranquility? This is especially the case if children are involved. Even if you think gender by itself is irrelevant when it comes to raising children, please don't make the mistake of writing off the importance of intimacy between the parents. I mean, think about it. Virtually any child will make it clear that while they may say "ew" and exclaim "gross" when they see their parents showing signs of outward intimacy, I can assure you that their childhood is hurt when intimacy wanes, especially when the waning is so pronounced so early. I mean, imagine a child 9 years old or younger, and their parents have already drastically dropped off in intimacy once a month or less, and it's only 10 years into it. If the lack of an intimate companion for single parents is so obvious a disadvantage for both the parent and the children, how much more obvious and painful, especially for little kids, to see the evaporation of intimacy between parents long before nature has, the same wane occur among heterosexual couples just out of age. And on the other end of this, on the other end of domestic tranquility, on the opposite end of intimacy, we have this, a report that shows that the number of instances in which individuals report, and these are individuals self-reporting, non-monogamy in their relationship since the beginning of the relationship. You have husbands reporting a non-monogamy rate of about 26%. So this is male, heterosexual, married relationships, 26% non-monogamy rate since they started. Wives, 20%. Male cohabitors, 32%. Female cohabitors, 28%. Gay men, and again, these are those in a relationship self-reporting on the instances of non-monogamy since the beginning of their current relationship. Over 80%. Think about what that means for children, if children are involved. Infidelity rates of over 80%. Lesbians, about 27%, so that's still higher than even married male men. So it's this combination of higher infidelity rates and lower long-term intimacy rates. These are all figures, in fact, cited in a book that's presently and rather widely used in college psychology